give people a couple minutes to roll in, and then we'll dive in. But um, what's been new for you these days, Cam?
Oh man, my life's pretty. I'm looking to see if I can find the stream so I can share it. Um,
Totally.
that's always an interesting question for me whenever anyone asks that, right? Because I live a pretty my wife and I live a pretty simple life. The newness of life isn't like, well, we traveled here yesterday or we went I experienced this new thing. Like if you would ask me that at like 21, I'd probably be like, oh dude, like all these things, right? My experience is mostly made up of having conversations with new people. So
Mm,
I think that my focus and attention is in different places these days. Professionally, I'm focused on learning more about. I'm exploring leadership opportunities, and I'm learning more about the RevOps world,
oh
revenue
wow,
operations. It's revenue operations. It's a newer concept and idea. Some people have really mastered what that means and looks like inside of a business, but it's like go to market strategy and things like that. It's a new term for me, but like the practice of it is something I've been doing for a long time. So I'm just kind of learning the language and becoming familiar with how other people talk about the things that I think that I've been doing in business for a while. So that's
nice.
where my focus is at the moment. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's cool. There's always, I mean, you've already got a ton of tools in your toolbox, but there's always a lot more to learn out there. So it's exciting to hear you're constantly expanding.
Always, man. The world moves too quickly not to stay informed.
Yeah, 100%. Well, cool. Let's dive in. Let's kick this off. People are joining. Um, but yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Remington Rodney. I'm the founder and CEO of Vurtual, a futuristic community equipping ambitious individuals with the tools, connections, and experiences to unlock their full potential. I'm here with Cam Martinez, an absolute legend. I'm a huge fan of this guy. Have had the honor of connecting with him a few times already, and um, something about Cam that I truly love is this aspect of presence. Every time I've had a conversation with you, Cam, I'll leave the call just like um, filled with joy and excitement and hope, and just like slow down a little bit. And I think we all need that kind of person in our lives. But a little background on Cam. Cam's a trusted advisor to founders, CEOs, and executives, helping them navigate leadership and growth with intention. His expertise in organizational design, strategy, and leadership development goes beyond systems. He helps leaders ask the right questions, challenge their blind spots, and build cultures that last. At the core of his work is a simple truth: everything you need is already within you. Welcome to the show, Cam. How's it going?
Thanks, man. I appreciate the intro. All as well, man. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to whatever we explore today.
Yeah, man. I mean, we called this event Essence. I'd love to dive right in. For the audience, what does essence mean to you?
Yeah. You were asking me to give you some words that would describe the conversation we would have for people today. And essence is a word and more so a feeling that I've been including into my work in the world. The things I write about, the things that I think about, how I infuse my perspective into businesses. There's a concept called Kensho. My company is called Kensho Craft, and a few years ago, my wife and I were deciding on what we wanted to change the name to. It's been named a few things over the years. And there's a Japanese concept called Kensho. It has different meanings. The main one is seeing one's true nature.
Mm,
There's also different interpretations. I don't speak Japanese. I'm not Japanese. I've never been to Japan, though I would love to. It's probably top three places I'd love to go in the world. Um, Ken in Japanese means sword. You can see my sword up here.
nice.
And I write about this more on my Substack, but my Substack's called seeing one's true essence. And really what I mean by that is when we understand who we are and why we're here and what we're capable of creating, that is our essence. We have an essence that we embody in the world, right? We're all, depending on how you see yourself and how you see your experience and the collective you, speaking to you, but really the collective you is what makes up your essence, right? Who you are, how you describe yourself, how you see the world, what you value, what you pursue in life, what you think the purpose of life is, what you think the meaning of life is, what you think the answer to all your questions are, is the essence of what your life becomes. So that's off the top of my head how I think I would describe that. Again, I have a whole, I write about it in detail on Substack, but that's the gist of what it is that I talk about. It's kind of like peeking behind the veil of reality a little bit. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I was doing some research myself too, just to like understand the concept, because it's not a word we see people using often, but it is so powerful. And it's, correct me if I'm wrong too, but it's like stepping into your truth, stepping
Mhm.
into the core of who you actually are. And when we actually do that, that unlocks so many beautiful things that are actually in alignment for us. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how stepping into your essence has played a big role in getting to where you are now?
Yeah. It's all about perspective, man, and how we define the words we use to describe our experience of ourselves, right? Essence to you probably means something different than it does to me, or whoever's listening to this might be like, well, that's not what the definition is.
Right.
And that's there is some validity to that, and everything's perspective when we really start to look at what's underneath the things that we believe, right? You mentioned the word truth. What is truth? What is true? What are the truths that we live by, right? Everyone has their own definition of those things and their own perspective of what that means for them, right? Understanding that we have agency and control over how we see our experience and how we see life and how we move through the world. Um, Understanding that's changed everything about how I show up, both in business and my relationships and my marriage, in conversations with people like you, right? Um, I'm not claiming to be a guy that has it all figured out or knows all the answers or can help you figure out the issues or challenges or problems you might be experiencing in your life. Um, but I've experienced some things in my life that have changed the way in which I see how to be in the world. Right, so I'm more intentional. I'm more deliberate. I show up with a more practical and grounded way of being because of how I see who we are and how we show up in the world. Right, to be more clear about what I mean and less ambiguous about your question. I had an old mentor that helped me understand that we are it. Like we are the ones that are either controlling, influencing, or participating in everything. Right? If our life looks the way that we want it to look, we did that. If our
Choice.
life looks a way we don't want it to look, or it feels the way we would want it to feel, we're doing that, right? We're
Yeah.
creating it. So, um, yeah, it's perspective is everything, and it can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it benefits you, right? Doesn't matter what you believe, as long as it works for you or against you according to how you believe it. So that's how I see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there's like the last part you were sharing too. There's, especially in social media, I feel like the people that we call quote unquote influencers, maybe like others think it's a roadmap for how their lives should be lived, or the roadmap for their own sense of success, joy, well-being. But what you're saying and what I love is it's not a one size fit all. It's customized to that person. And the only way you know how to actually equip that information is by connecting to yourself. How do we even connect to our true essence? Like, how does one even go about starting that journey?
Yeah, I think it starts with questions, right? We're always asking ourselves questions, and we're always giving answers, whether it's conscious, subconscious, unconscious. We have answers for everything. We might not be aware of how we think about something, but we're always asking questions.
Mm.
And we're always giving answers, and we're always deciding how to take action on the answers we give to the questions, right? So it usually starts for people. This is at least my experience. And again, and I want to clarify this before I continue. I was meaning to do this at the beginning of the episode, but nothing I say here is meant to be taken as universal truth. Take what works, leave the rest, continue on your journey. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you stopped by. I'm just a guy that has asked the questions and given my own answers, and am living my life according to how I see it. Doesn't have to be your experience. Doesn't have to be the way that you live your life or how you operate. This is just simply me sharing my perspective. But it usually starts with asking questions, right? Who am I? What's the point of all this? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is the meaning of all this? Are we just a happy accident, or are we here for a reason, right? Those are the questions. It's the unanswerable questions, because none of us really know what the real answer is. We have lots and lots and lots of information and access to that information at a rate that has never before been experienced, at least as far as we're aware, right? And so we get to decide. We get to decide what answers we give to those questions. But that's usually, the uncovering our true essence is simply just by giving it a definition. When you ask that question, what is my true essence? Nobody else can tell you what that is except for you. Nobody knows what you need and who you are better than you do. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah. Appreciate your authenticity and just the universal truth, right? I think it's important for everyone to take what they believe from this, and just appreciate you inserting that. And it's really that self investigation. Like, are you willing to, like you said, look under the hood and see within yourself? And yeah, I think that's not the most, that experience doesn't create the most amount of dopamine by any means. That's something you really have to, be able to slow down and achieve. Um, are there any like specific practices outside of questioning, and for the audience too, if you have any questions for Cam, for myself, centered around stepping into your true power, stepping into your truth, please feel free to comment them, and we will definitely answer them throughout the conversation. But Cam, do you have any like specific uh, rituals or tools that you've leveraged that have really worked for you to tap into this?
Well, I think I'm a guy who constantly is doing, self-inquiry. Self-awareness is the first step, right? Being aware that we are human beings, we are here, we do exist, right? This is reality. Awareness is always the first step. And I do a lot of self-inquiry, right? I will likely review at some point how I was on this conversation. Right? It'll just be like a passive thought, and I'll go, "Oh, dang! I wish I would have covered that thing," or I could have said that differently," or that part of the conversation I meant to say this and I forgot. So that kind of intentional inquiry, I think, is one of the things that I do often. It's kind of second nature and unconscious at this point. But as far as what I think you're asking, what I think you mean, I, I I'm probably not the I probably won't offer the perspective that some people might be looking for, right? Like there's
Mm,
some magical ritual or routine uh, or dance that you do, and then all of your you have everything that you want, right? It's
sure.
simpler than that. Here's how to create what you want, right? Which is really what's underneath all of the questions is whenever we're looking for guidance from someone or something, right? If it's an influencer or someone we respect online or a business owner that has created a business that we would love to create ourselves, or a father or a parent that raised awesome kids, or maybe they have an amazing marriage, we naturally look to those people for guidance. We naturally look at those circumstances and go, I want that. I'm not really sure how they got that. I'm going to try and figure out how to get that doing what they did to have it, right? Which is
Mm,
a losing game because life is not linear, right? Like
yeah.
there is no linear path to having what you want. So here's how to create what you want. Get clear on what you want first. In order to get what you want, you have to know what you want. And in order to know what it is that you actually want, you have to know how it is that you want to feel, right? You and I talked about this before this conversation. We want the thing, the business, the money, the house, the success, the heightened experiences that we often crave because we think we'll feel a certain way in the having of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once I have the money or the business or the reputation or the following, then I'll get to feel the way that I want to feel. That will make me feel happy. That'll make me feel joyful. That'll make me feel at peace. It happens in reverse order. You can feel that way anytime you want to. And in fact, I think this is the way the world works. When we are feeling the way that we want to feel and we're in that energy, right? And this is getting into the law of attraction, all that stuff. Like there are people who could probably run circles around me with the different definitions of things and the different practices and philosophies and concepts. And here's how to make it simple. Know what you want, define it clearly, decide that you are going to have it, and then you act accordingly. It's as simple as what would the kind of person who has this thing be like, feel like, act like, think like. And then it's a practice. And then every day you practice being that type of person, right? You want to be grounded, cool. You want to be at peace, be peaceful. You want to be grounded, be grounded. There is no magic remedy that's going to make that happen. It's simply decisions and actions, right? We decide that we want it and then we act accordingly. So, though, when I do wake up, I am not perfect. Sometimes I wake up and I didn't get great sleep, or I'm thinking about shit that happened yesterday, or my mind's doing its thing that the mind does with human beings.
Sure.
And so I'll intentionally make a point to get centered, so I'm not starting my day in fret. Right? I'm either in fret or in flow. And I have my own ritual. I like to have coffee. I like to sit at the table and read or listen to a podcast or listen to music or just get some sun on my face. My wife does this thing where she goes outside and gets sun first thing in the morning, so we'll just go sit outside sometimes.
Nice.
Um, it doesn't matter what it is that you do as long as it works for you, right? Find this process and system that works and then stick to it for as long as it's benefiting you. Uh, but for me, usually if I'm not making that an intentional part of my day, then the rest of my day is off balance in some way. If I am in fret when I wake up and I don't make it an intentional practice to sort myself out and get centered and grounded, then the rest of my day will feel how I felt when I woke up. Right? And we can get into like the nuances of this type of thing, right? When you wake up, you got about 5 minutes when you're in theta state. And that's kind of like you're really downloading information or you're in your most creative meditative state. Right. So you really ought to make it an intention to get centered first thing in the morning. Though that's not finite, right? Like your life's not going to end if you don't do that. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. I'm not here thinking that I've got it all figured out. There is no perfect. There's simply doing things the way that work for you and then continuing to do them over and over until you are in a place where everything feels like, okay, I've got this. I can do this. I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in my ability to create magic today, to not be pissed off on my call at 10 a.m. or to not want to be cynical on the timeline, instead be empowering and motivational and positive, right? So those types of things. Or even, if you have a partner, right? I've got my wife. It's how do we want them to experience us first?
It's a big motivator as well too. It's like
It's mirrors, man.
yeah, not just partners, but just like whether it's your colleague, your family, friends, like we want to show up grounded, empowered, present. Presence, I think, is the biggest one for me, especially with Elise, my partner. I think that motivates me a lot to just kind of like you're saying, have that intention daily of connecting to myself. When I'm disconnected from myself, which happens often because I'm human.
You're human, man.
Yeah, it's a choice though that I'm making, and I love that point that you made. It really is a choice that we're making when it does come to a feeling or a wanting. Um, we do put a lot of like future pressure on just like these emotion states, like you were saying. Um, these goals that we have in our head, like the finances, the car, the relationship. I think it's something I've been trying to practice more too, is embracing the feelings now. Like, how do I feel joy now without going to Bali? How do I feel uh, peaceful in just my current environment? I think that's a challenge for a lot of people, to be honest, to cultivate. They feel like they have to have these external achievements.
Well, that's what we've been conditioned to think, right? Like for a lot of us, our feelings are wrapped up in stuff, because for a lot of us, we've lost the understanding and the recognition that it's not about that. The reason that it feels difficult for some people to feel the way they want to feel is we overcomplicate it, right? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I'm not trying to, coach you or lead you through anything here. This is just what I recognized in that question that you asked. Okay.
Please do.
Usually we're asking overcomplicated questions, right? How do I feel joy without having to go to Bali to feel the way I want to feel? That's a really long question to ask. It can be simplified. How do I want to feel? And that's an intentional question you can literally just slow down and ask yourself. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy that like I hear my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to myself in my own head. If I'm not present and centered, that can just run off and do its own thing. If I'm not like intentionally bringing it back to what I'm doing in this moment. So that's a question you can ask. How do I want to feel? I wake up and I'm grumpy or grouchy about something. How would I rather feel right now? Now, the problem with that is when we ask questions and we don't have answers that we have intentionally given to those types of questions, we have pre-programmed answers to that stuff.
Yeah.
How do I want to feel right now? Well, I feel like I want to like hang up a heavy bag and just kick the shit out of it all day. Right. And I'm using examples here. I'm sure there are people out there listening that feel that way sometimes, especially men, right? We can feel that. When we ask that question, if we aren't giving it an answer that's benefiting us, right? Like, how do I want to feel right now? Calm. Well, if we don't have a definition for what calm means, calm, cool, collected, centered, grounded, present, whatever you want to say there. Our ego, our automated way of being, will give an answer to it, and then it will automatically dictate the way we behave in that moment. Right? Which is why sometimes it can feel difficult when we have a heightened emotion. So, well, Cam, it's not as simple as just like taking a breath and like, how do I want to feel? Then I'm automatically changed. No, for some of us, that does become second nature, but it takes practice. And it takes practice with intention. Intention. When you're in tension, you're feeling tension, you're in it. And the practice is redirecting your energy and your emotion and your thoughts while you're experiencing the thing you're experiencing. So when I say, how do I want to feel? Calm. Well, that to me means a certain thing, right? I've practiced a way of being so often that I can just be that in the moment. I wasn't born that way. I don't have, this isn't something that like, I'm not some guru on a mountaintop that's like, I have discovered all. This is just how it's worked for me. This is the thing that I have found that works best for me, is giving definition to things in such a way that I can understand them in the moment. So when you ask me about essence, I don't have my script that I use to go, well, this is what essence means to me, and this is what it should mean to all of you. It's a feeling first. And then I describe that feeling the best way that I can in the moment based off of the information and context I have, right? If you were to ask me that again tomorrow, I would definitely have a completely different response because it's not automatic.
Totally.
But behavior doesn't work that way. Behavior is simpler than that. We're not feeling the way we want to feel. Cool. Decide how it is you would rather feel. Define it in a way that's simple, that you'll remember, that you understand, and then practice being that way in moments, catching yourself in real time when you're not being and feeling and acting and thinking the way that you want to. Redirect. And you can use like the snap, like that. That's a great pattern interrupt. That's a great way to like, all right, snap out of it, right? That's not a thing I do, but it just happened to be perfect for this example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can continue going this route and having this type of conversation. I love this stuff. So that's how I see it. I hope I answered your question.
How does this stuff? I mean, it's so fascinating. Like, just your level of like you can just feel that you've done the work. Like, this is a consistent practice. This is how you live. This is your essence, right? And it's so inspiring, man. Like, um, it's something like I definitely have aspired to be more like. Is just that sense of calmness, awareness as well too. It's not easy, you know. I would say for me, like this has been week 4 full time on Vurtual, and it's such a blessing. This transformation, this transition I'm on, but there's definitely been days where I'm just like in my head, and I think this is a good just transition the conversation to talk more about how this applies to entrepreneurship and business, right? Because as a founder, as an artist, could be a head of marketing at a company, you know, we probably all feel a little bit of sense of pressure. Maybe that's unnecessary to be putting on ourselves, but we do have these like expectations of output, and achievement. So I'm curious, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, a creator, listening, how do we like apply these tools, these methods, the mindset that you're sharing to create that sense of balance, peace, joy, you know, even when we are feeling the weight?
Yeah. Well, here's the common denominator, right? Remove entrepreneur, remove the title, remove whatever role you have at a company or in life. The common denominator is we're all human. And we're all humans having experience. We're all having different experiences, right? Our circumstances are different. our our circumstances are different. The people we engage with and interact with every day are different. Some people may have a more difficult time in their day job or in their business than someone else, right? Now, that's not to bring up the idea of comparison, because no one human being has the same path. There are many times in my life where I thought that I was on an upward trajectory, and then it was knocked off balance by something, or I was redirected into something else, or it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to, or I wasn't ready for it or grown up enough to be able to like hold on to it and maintain
Mhm.
it, right? So at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and some of us are more practiced than others at dealing with high stress, high pressure, you know, environments with lots of moving pieces and lots of decisions that have to be made. And like, I'm not sure what someone like and I'm in no way endorsing these people, but they're common and they have a lot of things going on in their life, right? Like I imagine an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or a Donald Trump or whoever else is popular right now has a different set of experiences and tools and ability to manage certain things than other people, right? You throw me into an environment where I'm managing 7 different billion-dollar companies with thousands of employees, and I have to make a decision that could impact the life of thousands of people. I probably won't do as well because I don't have the practice doing that. That's not something that I'm prepared for or in this moment capable of handling with grace. I might be able to like gather enough information and use my my count, like call upon my counsel of people that I trust, and you know draw on my intuition and other people's perspectives, and read some books, and maybe like reach out to someone who has done the thing that I'm looking to do before. And at the end of the day, you can do all of that and still not have the same capacity to do it well as other people. That doesn't mean you're less than or you're not good enough or that's something to strive for. I have no desire to be a fucking billionaire running 7 companies, man, and overseeing thousands of people. That's not what I'm interested in. That's not my preference. That's not how I wish to go through life this time around. Maybe another time, but
Maybe it's a hard maybe.
that's just, I have no desire to do that. Right? It's entertaining. It's cool to see that humans are capable of accomplishing things like those people, whether or not you agree with them or like what they do in the world or how they make decisions or show up. They are doing some remarkable things that we've never seen before. All of them. You could throw in 100 names into that conversation, right? And I'm not taking a stance here. Those are the first people that came to mind. Like I'm not the kind of, I don't know how to fucking build a rocket. I don't even know where to start to like assemble a team to do the thing. That's not where my focus and attention is. That's not where I choose to spend my time. This is my thing. This is what I love talking about. Some people call that purpose or calling. Like, is this my calling? Was I born to do this? I have no clue, man. It's something that I just stumbled into, and it's something that I can't not do. I everything I write about, all the conversations I tend to have an essence of this in them, right? So to answer your question in a long roundabout way, right? I say all that to say this has everything to do with entrepreneurship. What we're talking about here is everything. It's all wrapped up in what I just said. What is it that you want? Do you want to be the Elon Musk? Do you want to have a company with thousands of employees and you are overseeing some really complex decision making and operating in high pressure, high stress, high responsibility environments? Dude, do it. Like, if that's your thing, go try it. If that's what you really want, go try it. If that's what you foresee your future looking like, awesome. I'm not here to say what is right or wrong, good or bad. We all have preferences and we all get to decide. So, yeah, we can get into like, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have to know what you want. And that's kind of the first step.
Yeah, I would like, honestly, like just using myself as an example and just what we're talking about as a whole, awareness, I would contribute where I'm at today, whether people deem it successful or not, as Cam would probably say, um, to like slowing down, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, travel. It hasn't been the hardcore, let me learn these crazy business techniques, tactics to become successful. It's actually, like you said, creating space to understand what are my strengths and intentionally honing those specifically and surrounding myself with other people that can complement those strengths as well. And I think that that's something I've been reflecting on more and more the past few weeks as well too, as I assembled this team for the vision we're creating at Vurtual, is just like what is my superpower? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? You know, whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, those are essential things to understand and be aware of. But to cultivate that, it takes practice. It takes time away from the laptop. It takes time away from listening to the podcast. It takes time going for a walk in nature, journaling down on your journal, having a conversation like this with other inspiring people. It's not always go, 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 action. And I think that's what we see a lot in entrepreneurship is it's like you got to be working 60 to 120 hours or something a week. I don't even know if that's possible. I won't do it. I can't do it. I don't have the motor for that. You know, like, but because I've created such a strong connection to myself, I know Remy and I'm continuing to get to know Remy daily. The actions I do take is like a move on a chessboard. Strategic. It's moving towards the ultimate goal, the ultimate vision. So I think you're really hammering home on an important aspect, not just to become a successful entrepreneur, but to create a beautiful life. It's not the stuff, it's us. It's here, right? I think the heart is the compass, the guidance. But I think a lot of us think it's the mind. We get so wrapped up in when we wake up, the first 5 to 10 minutes of the day. Trust me, I've lived that so much when you just get slapped in the face with negativity. It's so easy to take that on like it's yours, like that's actually who you are. But it's the practices like snapping your finger to get out of that that actually provide you with the awareness of your truth. It's like, no, I'm an abundant, joyful, loving, transformative being. I got this. So yeah, I love everything you're saying, and it really does go both ways with life, entrepreneurship. It all blends together. So
Yeah, man, that's self-awareness. You seem to know who you are and what you want and why you're doing what you're doing. You have a reason for hosting this podcast and building your business, and sounds like you have a vision and you have an end goal, or at least a destination you want to reach. Now the common problem with that is, I'm not saying this is you, I'm just using this as an example. The common issue with that for a lot of people is it's easy to say, well, you just have to know, you have to have a vision for what you want in your life.
mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I remember when I was asked that the first time, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want your life to look like? Well, it's a million different things fly through your head, right? Another common one is you're an old man, woman. What do you want to look back on your life and be proud of? Right. Well, it's hard for a lot of us to conceptualize what can happen in 50 years from now. That's a long time. A lot can happen in that time, right? A lot can happen in even just this year. We're almost in March already, right?
It's
So much
crazy.
happened.
Crazy.
Now multiply that by 100. That our minds don't tend to naturally work in a way in which we can easily think about that and define it for ourselves. It feels so vast and wide and big, and if you really expand out, we are tiny, right? There's a school of thought out there that we're just a fractal of the universe, right? We're just a little blimp, a little piece of dust within the cosmos, right?
It's crazy to think about.
Think about it too long and you realize how small and unimportant a lot of the things that we fret about are.
Yeah. Wow.
The things that we get upset by, the things that bother us, the things that are completely out of our control. Why do we do that to ourselves, right? Most of us a lot of us are thinking in a micro way, that what we see right here is all there is. There's micro and macro, right? There's a vast, wide array of understanding that I don't think we've even grasped yet. Right? There's a lot of things we don't know or remember or have the information about yet. We're still figuring out whether we should be eating plants or eating animals, type of thing, right? There's still an argument about whether water's good enough. There's a conversation out there that we can have too much or too little water, right? We can argue for or against anything. Choose a topic, and you can find someone who has an opinion about it, and probably proof to back up their perspective. And it's important to have awareness, right? You mentioned having a beautiful life, and I was telling you before this conversation, before we went live, that it's all subjective. What is a beautiful life? It's all our own definition. We get to decide what that means. And I had a conversation with a person once, and I helped them understand themselves a little bit more, and they went, "Oh man, yeah, you're right. Like, people who have way more than I do are happier." So there's a lot of people out there with way less than you who are also happy.
Yeah.
Right. It's
100%.
It's all subjective. It's all perspective.
What are some questions that you ask your clients or even yourself to kind of get to that core belief system or just values? Like, yeah, I'm curious to hear that and think it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting conversation, right? Values. What are they? How do we arrive at those things for ourselves? We've all got them, right? The simple way to think about it is think about the things that bother you, and you'll understand what you value. Think about the things that really grind your gears or upset you. You'll understand what you value, at least in this moment. With the amount of understanding and information and knowledge you have currently, again, I'm speaking collectively here, not directly at you. With all of that, right, you are right here, right now, in this moment. You have a set of beliefs, opinions, perspectives that you believe to be true, that are guiding your life in a certain direction. Those are your values currently. They can be adjusted, they can be shifted, they can be changed anytime that you want to. You have agency, you have control, you have the ultimate authority over your own life. Nobody can tell you what's right or wrong for you, what's good or bad for you. You get to decide that for yourself. Now, a lot of us think that we're thinking that way or being that way or living that way, yet our life isn't how we want it to be yet. Or maybe we got the thing, we grew the company and we had the cars and we had the house and we had the beautiful person by our side, man, woman, right? We had it all. We had the jet and we could travel anytime we wanted to. We had the multiple passports, whatever your aspirations are. Maybe you have accomplished all of that. Maybe you have all the money in your bank account and you're deciding what to do with it. There are a lot of people out there that have all of that and don't enjoy where they're at in life because they didn't understand why. They didn't understand what. They valued at the time the things that were outside of them. Those were their values: status, wealth, right? All of those words have different definitions and meanings to individual people. When you say wealth and I say wealth, probably means a different thing. They might not be too far off, but what I consider wealth and love and prosperity and peace and joy, and insert whatever feeling and word you want to there, I have my own definitions for them. Is it right? It's working for me. That doesn't mean it's right for someone else. It's right for me. And at the end of the day, that's ultimately what matters. And here's a great question to ask. What do I got to do? And you can change do to what do I got to think? What do I got to feel? What do I got to have in order to feel as good about myself as I can when I'm by myself?
Mm.
You might have kids, you might have a husband or wife, you might have family you're taking care of, you might have friends you're around often. At the end of the day, it's you and you alone. You and your thoughts, you and your feelings, you and your beliefs, you and your decisions you made that day, that year, that month, that week. And you either are in alignment with those things, meaning you feel good about how you've been being, or you don't. And that ultimately we get to decide. And that's ultimately the ultimate compass or guide is, what do I got to do to feel as good about myself as I can when I'm by myself? That's an old mentor of mine gave me that question. Another way to think about it is, what do I got to do to deal with the least amount of shit possible, right? The least amount of frustration, least amount of anger, resentment, overthinking, second guessing, whatever you want to insert there. Ask yourself that question, and then you'll know how to be in that moment.
I'm curious, how would you define, like, pretending to your life, abundance?
Hmm. All I have to do is look around, man. I've been holding a pocket knife this whole time, but I can look around at all the things in my room currently. Like, dude, I'm talking to you from several states away, from miles, like thousands of miles away, on a computer that I purchased that is allowing me to live stream to an audience of who knows how many people, speaking into a microphone that I like. It's here, like I bought it, right? I have a light here. Like, it's as simple as that, man. Like, this is abundance. I did this. I created it.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a unique. It's not it shouldn't be unique. I feel like that should be the norm, is like what's in front of us. Um but I think a lot of people have different definitions for that. I'd probably say it's a feeling, as well. It's the joy that I feel, the peace that I feel, the relationships that I have.
Here's how I would define it for myself. Abundance is the understanding that I'm never without. Abundance is the understanding I'm never without. Answers, questions, guidance. I have access to everything that I want right here, right now. Literally, physically, I can open my phone and get on a chat GPT and ask a question, and there it is. Pff, magic. Or I can simply turn everything off and sit in silence, and again, I have my answers. We are abundant beings by nature because we are a fractal of source. You're it, dude. This is what a mentor of mine used to tell me. You're it. I don't want to get too into the nuances of this, but since we're here, you're it. You're God. You're consciousness. You're source. You are the thing that you are seeking. It's all within you. In the intro you shared, you are it. Now, people who practice religions and who are guided by their faith and have their chosen spirituality or their chosen way of seeing the world might disagree with me, and that's okay. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to say my way is the right way. From what I understand, we're all talking about the same thing from different perspectives. Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, right? Scientology, the people who use money as their ultimate end goal, and like we're all talking about the same thing. There is something guiding all of us. And I think that the ultimate answer to the question that we ask to understand whether or not we believe that to be true is we're all it. You are made up of the same ingredients that I am. Mostly water. But we're all emitting energy. Right? You said you could feel me through the screen. How the hell do you do that? You're not here with me. It's because we're all the same thing, man. You can feel me through the screen. You can feel me from that distance because it's not about time and space and distance. It's energy.
Yeah. Love these conversations with you, man. It's there's so much wisdom if you're actually like listening right now and you're being present. There's so much wisdom in what Cam is sharing, and just the tools, like the core foundational tools to create an amazing life. I truly believe like this is the path, and I know we all have our own vision of what that looks like, but everything is already here. My friend Khalil said this to me during a session. He's one of our story architects. We're all about storytelling with Vurtual, creating these futuristic stories. And as we're kind of building out the three pillars of our brand, the first one's mindfulness. So a lot of what we talked about today is centered around our first pillar, being able to connect to yourself. The second one's community. Once you're able to connect with yourself, now you can actually attract other beautiful people. And the third one's impact. Once you have that community and that self-connection, you can then go and create that impact within the world. But he said, we are all unique, abundant beings already. But I don't think a lot of people view themselves that way. And we need people like Cam in this world, people, brands like Vurtual, other creators. You need yourself to have that awareness to unlock that. We have the key right here in our hands, in our heart, everywhere. It's just that sense of awareness and belief. I think belief is something that has honestly been a huge factor to where I am today, and honestly just the past few weeks. I believe in what we're creating. I believe in the vision and the impact. So I already see the universe, whatever, laying out the path for the vision to be created, because it's not a wanting. I'm not forcing it. It's just this inevitable process that's happening. And since I've left my job, I feel like once again, let's just like the alignment, because I'm following something that I actually care about, that I love. So much abundance and just synchronicities and opportunities and relationships are just popping up. And I'm just blessed that we're able to have a conversation like this, because this is not your typical LinkedIn live stream, right?
Yeah, I'm curious what people on LinkedIn are thinking of this conversation right now.
Hopefully it's up to them, right? But it's been an abundant conversation, and I'm just grateful, man. Um, I guess as we come to an end, like any final remarks, or yeah, any final remarks, pieces of advice or wisdom from you?
uh, uh, Nothing's coming to mind. I think that I've left a pretty solid message for people today.
You really have. You really have, man. Um, yeah, I appreciate you greatly. And like I said at the beginning of the conversation, I was at this hotel called Junto in the lobby doing some work, and I had a meeting before our meeting. This was in 2024 towards the end. I was like super riled up. I remember I came on the call with you, just like guns blazing. You're like, what are you up to now, man? And I like list off like 4 or 5 different things, and I just remember you had this sense of presence. And as the conversation went on, I'm looking at you. I'm like, all right, Remy, you need to chill out. Uh,
There was no judgment, by the way. I wasn't calling you out or anything like that.
no. I sensed it in myself. And I remember you said, you got time, man. And that stuck with me since. It's something I think about all the time. If I'm putting pressure on myself to be somewhere that I'm not, or acquire a certain amount of money, attract a certain relationship at a big company, I'm like, no. Be present. Be grateful for what you have now. And remember, you got time.
You have time, man. You're gonna get everything that you want. You've already set it in motion, man. As long as you're alive, you will get it. There's going to be a time where you look back and have made it in your definition of what that means. Where you'll go, man, I did all the things that I said I was going to do. Now what? Where a lot of us get caught up is needing to do it in a certain amount of time is what I meant by that, right? You have time. Like, I was grateful to have 4 of my grandparents alive through the majority of my childhood and adolescence, and a couple of them are still living. I imagine they would look at some of the ways that I felt in the past and just laugh and go, I remember when I was there too. There are people probably listening to this that have made it in whatever sense that means, right? And now are working towards a different goal or working towards a different life. There's no need to rush things. It's all going to happen. And as long as you can maintain your state and remember that you're going to have it, and anytime that you find yourself like thinking, oh shit, it's not going to work, nobody's going to like this, nobody's going to tune in, I'm not going to, whatever, just remember it's going to work out. It might not look the same, it might not be packaged in the same way, but you've already set it in motion, man. All you've got to do, your only job now is to maintain your state, meaning calm, cool, collected, centered, balanced, whatever you call it. That's all you have to do, and you'll know how to proceed.
Less is more. Simple is best. Really enjoyed the conversation, Cam. A lot of wisdom. Always learning from you. Where can the audience find you? Um, yeah, and I can put it in the chat too, for people to look at.
Yeah, for sure. Kensho Cam is my handle everywhere. KENSHO Cam. is my handle everywhere. I write on Substack. My newsletter, so to speak, is Seeing One's True Essence, where I write about a lot of the topics we discussed today in different ways. It's mostly reflections and perspective rooted in principle, not necessarily giving answers, but giving people something to think about so they can arrive at their own is really what the purpose of that is. But I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I don't use that too often, but yeah, say what's up.
Yeah, please go connect with Cam. Visionary leader, inspiring human. Grateful for the time, man.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone that tuned in. We'll see you next week on Monday. Exciting things coming up. We're going to be doing our first live stream DJ set, so stay tuned for that.